The storm had already passed, but something at the edge of the ranch still refused to calm down. Late at night, under pale moonlight, the rancher heard a sound he couldn't explain. Not thunder. Not wind. A horse, breathing heavily, standing right outside his storage shed. And it wasn't leaving. For hours it just stood there. Silent. Watching. Guarding something no one even knew existed yet. Lucas Reed had owned Reed Valley Ranch for almost 12 years. He'd seen wild storms break fences, seen foals born in freezing rain, and seen horses refuse death itself just to survive. But tonight felt different, because the horse outside the shed wasn't panicked. It was focused, protective, like it was guarding a secret buried inside the building. Lucas pulled his coat tighter and stepped outside. "Easy," he whispered. The barn lights flickered as he walked toward the shed. And the moment he got close, the horse stepped in front of the door, blocking it. Lucas froze. It was a dark bay stallion, tall, powerful but scarred. Old injuries lined its shoulder. A faded brand mark barely visible under its coat. But its eyes. Those eyes weren't wild. They were intelligent. Alert. Almost human. Lucas exhaled slowly. "What are you doing here?" The stallion didn't move. Just stomped once. A warning. Inside the shed, Lucas knew what was there. Junk. Broken equipment. And one small wooden box he had been meaning to throw away for years. It belonged to the previous owner of the ranch, his late father. Lucas had never opened it. Never cared to. Until now. Because somehow, this horse was stopping him from getting inside. Lucas stepped closer. The stallion snorted loudly and lowered its head. The threat. Not violent, but absolute. Lucas whispered, confused, "You're protecting a box?" The horse blinked once. And didn't move. Behind him, his assistant Mia arrived, holding a flashlight. "What is going on out here?" Lucas didn't answer immediately. He pointed at the horse. "It won't let me inside." Mia frowned. "That's just a wild stallion. Chase it off." Lucas shook his head. "No, it's not random." He turned back to the horse. "It's waiting." The stallion suddenly shifted. Not aggressive, but purposeful. It stepped sideways, just enough to reveal a narrow gap to the door. Like it was offering permission, but only under one condition. Lucas felt a strange chill. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. The horse turned its head toward the shed again. Then back at Lucas. And for a moment, everything felt wrong. Because Lucas suddenly understood. The horse wasn't guarding the box from him. It was guarding him from the box. Lucas swallowed hard. Slowly, he reached for the door handle. The stallion didn't move, but its ears flattened slightly. Tension rose instantly. Mia whispered, "Lucas, maybe don't." Too late. The door creaked open. Dust exploded into the air. Inside the shed were broken tools, old saddles, rusted chains. And in the corner, a small wooden box. Carved with initials Lucas didn't recognize. But the moment the stallion saw it, it stepped forward, stopping just inches from Lucas. Blocking him again. Lucas backed up slightly. "Okay." Something was very wrong now. The horse was trembling. Not in fear of him, but of the box. Mia whispered nervously, "Why is it acting like that?" Lucas didn't answer. Because he didn't know. But something deep in his gut told him, this wasn't just an old container. It was a memory. A buried one. The stallion suddenly let out a low, painful sound. Almost like a grief-stricken cry. Then it stepped aside. Slowly. Reluctantly. As if giving up something it had been protecting for a very long time. Lucas stared. "You're letting me open it?" The horse didn't respond. But its eyes said everything. Finally, Lucas stepped inside the shed. His hands shook as he picked up the wooden box. It was heavier than expected. Like something was inside that didn't just belong to wood and dust. Mia stepped closer behind him. "Lucas, what if it's dangerous?" Lucas hesitated, then whispered, "There's only one way to find out." The stallion stood behind them now. Completely still. Watching. Waiting. Like it already knew what was inside. And what it would change. Lucas placed the box on an old workbench. The silence in the shed became unbearable. Even Mia stopped breathing for a moment. Lucas reached for the latch. Looked at the horse one last time. The stallion didn't blink. Lucas opened it, and inside was something that made him freeze completely. Something that made his breath disappear. Something that connected the horse to his father, and to a truth Lucas had never been told. Lucas didn't move, not even to blink. The wooden box sat open on the workbench, but it felt like the entire world had just narrowed into that single moment. The stallion behind him let out a low, shaky breath, like it already knew what Lucas was about to feel. Mia leaned in slightly. "What is it?" Lucas couldn't answer, because inside the box wasn't gold, wasn't money, wasn't anything he expected. It was something far more unsettling. A folded leather strap. A horse bridle, but not like any Lucas had seen before. Attached to it was a small silver tag, scratched and faded. Lucas picked it up slowly and read the engraving. His stomach tightened instantly. It had his father's initials. Mia frowned. "That's your dad's." Lucas nodded slowly. "My father never owned horses like this." But even as he said it, something in his memory flickered. A gap. A blank space from his childhood. Something he had never questioned before. Under the bridle lay something else. A bundle of photographs. Lucas pulled them out carefully. The first image made his hands go cold. It showed his father, standing in this exact ranch, smiling. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stood the same stallion, except younger, stronger, unscarred. Lucas stepped back. "No, that's not possible." Mia looked confused. "That's your dad." Lucas nodded slowly. "But I never saw him with this horse." The stallion behind them shifted again. Not aggressively, but like it was reacting to memories only it could feel. Lucas flipped to the next photo. His breath caught. It showed his father collapsed on the ground during a snowstorm. And the horse, standing over him, protecting him, not running, not fleeing, guarding him from the storm. Lucas whispered, "What happened here?" A sudden wind slammed against the shed walls. The lantern flickered, and for a split second, Lucas thought he heard a voice. Not human, but memory itself speaking. Mia stepped closer. "Lucas, this horse knew your father." Lucas stared at the stallion. Not just knew him. The pause. It protected him. The stallion took one slow step forward. Lucas didn't move this time. The horse stopped just inches away. Close enough that Lucas could feel its breath. Heavy. Intelligent. Then something incredible happened. The stallion lowered its head. Not in submission, but in recognition. Like it had been waiting for Lucas to finally understand. Lucas slowly reached out. His hand hovered above the horse's forehead. Mia whispered, "Be careful." But Lucas didn't listen, because something inside him had already changed. He gently touched the stallion, and the horse didn't move away. It closed its eyes, like it had been holding on to something for years, and finally, letting it go. Lucas exhaled shakily. "You remember him?" The stallion snorted softly, as if answering yes. Lucas turned back to the box. There was one more item inside. A folded piece of paper. He opened it carefully. The handwriting was his father's, but the message was not something he was prepared for. "If you are reading this, then the horse has chosen to show you the truth." Lucas froze. Mia stepped closer. "What truth?" Lucas kept reading. "This horse did not come to us by accident. He was never meant to be owned. He came here after saving my life in the mountains." Lucas looked up sharply. Mia whispered, "Saving your father?" Lucas nodded slowly. His voice barely worked. "He never told me this." He continued reading. "I never trained him. I never broke him. I only followed him. And when I tried to let him go, he always came back. Not because he was mine, but because something here was unfinished." The stallion suddenly stepped away, turning toward the barn door. Restless now, like the memory inside the box had awakened something larger. Something unfinished indeed. Lucas followed its gaze. Unfinished what? Mia shook her head. I don't like this. But Lucas couldn't stop now. Something was pulling him forward. He picked up the photographs again, flipping through them faster, then stopped. A final image, different from the rest. It showed a hidden valley, mountains, wild horses, and in the center, this stallion, standing like a leader, not a pet, not a rescued animal. Something else entirely. Lucas whispered, "What are you really?" The stallion turned its head slowly toward him, and for the first time, it looked like it wanted him to follow. Suddenly, the shed door creaked open violently. A cold wind rushed inside. The stallion stepped out immediately. Lucas hesitated. Then Mia grabbed his arm. "Lucas, don't follow it." But he was already moving, because now he understood. The box wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. And somewhere beyond the ranch, something his father never finished was still waiting. The stallion didn't run. Fled. Slow, steady, deliberate, like every step had already been written long before Lucas ever opened that box. Lucas stood at the edge of the shed, staring into the cold night air, his breath shaking as Mia grabbed a flashlight behind him. "This is insane," she muttered. "You're actually following it?" Lucas didn't answer right away, because part of him agreed, and part of him already knew he didn't have a choice. The photographs weren't just memories. They were directions. The stallion moved toward the far end of the ranch, where the land broke into rough and used terrain, old fencing, forgotten trails, and a narrow path that hadn't been touched in years. Lucas had walked this ranch his entire life, and yet he had never gone this far. Not once. Mia stumbled slightly over frozen ground. "Where is it taking us?" Lucas shook his head. "I think, somewhere my father never told me about." The stallion paused ahead, turning its head just enough to confirm they were still following. Then continued forward. As they climbed higher, the wind changed. It wasn't just cold anymore. It felt older, heavier, like the land itself remembered something humans had chosen to forget. Lucas tightened his jacket. "I don't understand how my father hid all of this." Mia replied quietly, "Or why?" The trail opened suddenly into a ridge overlooking the valley below. Lucas stopped. His breath caught. Below them was something impossible. A wide, hidden basin surrounded by cliffs. And inside it, movement. Horses. Dozens of them. But free. Not fenced. Not owned. Living like the land had never been touched by humans at all. Mia whispered, "There's no record of this." Lucas didn't respond, because his eyes had already locked onto something else. At the center of the herd stood the stallion. The same one, but now different. Stronger. Calmer. Like it wasn't just a horse. It was something the entire herd followed without question. A leader. Lucas stepped forward instinctively. The box, the photos. He looked down at the stallion below. This is where it all connects. Mia shook her head. "But how? Your father was just a rancher." Lucas swallowed hard. Was he? Suddenly, the stallion below lifted its head. And even from that distance, it looked directly at Lucas, as if it had been expecting him, waiting for him. "For years." Lucas whispered. "He knows I'm here." Mia stepped back slightly. "I don't like this. It feels like we're trespassing on something we shouldn't see." Lucas nodded slowly. "Maybe that's the point." The stallion suddenly began moving uphill, leaving the herd behind, walking directly toward them. Each step slow but powerful. No hesitation. No fear. Lucas felt his pulse spike. "It's coming up here." Mia grabbed his arm. "Lucas, we should go back." But Lucas didn't move, because something inside him was no longer afraid. It was pulling him forward instead. The stallion stopped only a few feet away, close enough that Lucas could see scars he had never noticed before. Old injuries. Marks from storms. Survival. A life lived beyond human control. Lucas whispered, "Why did my father protect you?" The stallion didn't answer, but it lowered its head slightly, then turned toward the mountains deeper in the valley, like it was pointing the way. Mia frowned. What now? Lucas looked toward the direction the horse indicated, and for the first time, he noticed it. A narrow opening between the cliffs. Almost invisible. A path hidden by rock and shadow. Lucas stepped closer. I think that's where it wants us to go. Mia shook her head immediately. No way. Absolutely not. Lucas hesitated, but the stallion walked past them slowly and continued toward the hidden pass. Without looking back, Lucas exhaled sharply. My father didn't just hide a horse, he said quietly. He hid a place. Missed. A place for what? Lucas stared into the mountain pass. I think, for everything he never told me. They followed. The path became tighter, steeper, the air colder, until finally, the world opened again. And what they saw made them both freeze. A massive hidden valley stretched out beyond the cliffs. Completely untouched. No buildings. No fences. No signs of civilization. Just wild horses moving like shadows across the land. And in the center, a stone marker. Weathered. Half buried in earth. Lucas stepped forward slowly. The stallion stood beside it. Waiting. He brushed snow off the stone. And read the inscription. His voice broke instantly. William Reed. Mia froze. That's your father's name. Lucas nodded slowly. But there was more. Below it was another line carved deep into the stone. He never owned what saved him. Silence fell across the valley. Even the wind seemed to stop. Lucas stared at the stallion. His voice barely above a whisper. You brought me here. The horse blinked once. Slowly. Calmly. And then, from somewhere deeper in the valley, a distant sound echoed. It was many of them. Approaching. Lucas turned. What now? Mia grabbed his arm tightly. But the stallion didn't move. It only looked forward, like it was expecting something. Or someone. And that's when Lucas realized, this wasn't just a discovery. It was a return. Of something that had been waiting far longer than he understood. The sound of hooves grew louder. Not chaotic. Not frightened. Organized, like a memory returning in waves. Lucas stood frozen beside Mia, his eyes locked on the narrow ridge where the sound was coming from. The stallion didn't move. It only watched. As if it already knew exactly who was arriving. Then they appeared. One by one. Wild horses emerging from between the cliffs, stepping into the open valley like they belonged to a story older than time itself. Dozens of them. Mares. Foals. Strong stallions. All moving with calm purpose, not fear. And at the front, a gray mare with deep scars along her shoulder. She stopped the moment she saw the black stallion. Lucas whispered, They know him. Mia nodded slowly. They're not just following him. The pause. They're responding to him. The black stallion finally moved. Slowly stepping forward, the entire herd parted instinctively. Like water splitting around a stone. He wasn't chasing them. He wasn't leading them now. He was returning to them. Lucas felt something shift in his chest. This isn't just a herd. He looked at the stone marker again. His father's name carved into it. What did my father protect here? Mia pointed toward the far side of the valley. There. Lucas followed her gaze. A collapsed wooden structure sat partially hidden under rock and snow. Not a barn. Not a cabin. Something older. A ranger outpost, or something even earlier. The stallion walked toward it. The herd followed at a distance, but respectfully, as if giving space. Lucas hesitated only a second before following. Mia grabbed his arm again. We should wait. Lucas shook his head. I've already gone too far to stop now. As they approached the structure, Lucas noticed something strange. The wood wasn't rotting evenly. It looked reinforced. Rebuilt over time. Like someone had maintained it secretly for years. The stallion stopped at the entrance. Lowered his head. And for the first time since this journey began, he made a sound. Not a warning. Not a call. A quiet, almost mournful breath. Lucas stepped inside. The air was still. Undisturbed for years. Inside the structure were old supplies, cracked leather gear, and faded maps pinned to the wall. But what caught Lucas's attention was a photograph nailed above the desk. It showed his father, older than the pictures from the box, standing in this exact valley, next to the stallion. But there was something different in his expression. Not pride. Not ownership. Relief. Lucas whispered. He built this place. Mia frowned. For what? Lucas didn't answer immediately, because he was already reading the handwritten note beside the photo. If you are standing here, then you've met him the way I did. Not as property, but as truth. Lucas stepped back. This horse wasn't just part of his life. A realization hit him hard. He was part of something bigger. Outside, the herd suddenly shifted. All heads turned toward the sky. Lucas rushed out. What's happening? Mia pointed upward. Helicopter. A distant sound returned, rotor blades cutting through the air. But this time, it wasn't just one. It was several. Lucas felt his stomach drop. The developers. Mia shook her head. No, this is worse. As the helicopters grew closer, the herd began to move nervously. Not panicking, but preparing. Like they had experienced this before. The black stallion stepped in front of them. Protective. Unmoving. A barrier between the herd and the sky. Lucas ran toward him. They found us again. The stallion turned its head slightly toward Lucas. Not fear. Not panic. But urgency. And then Lucas understood something terrifying. They're not just coming for the land. The pause. They're coming for them. One helicopter circled lower than the others. Mia shouted. They're scanning the valley. Lucas clenched his fists. They want to map everything. The stallion suddenly let out a sharp, commanding whinny. The herd responded instantly. They began moving deeper into the valley, away from the open clearing. Organized. Controlled. Like they had rehearsed this escape before. Lucas stared in shock. This isn't the first time. Mia looked at him. What do you mean? Lucas pointed at the stallion. He's led them away from danger before. The black stallion turned toward Lucas one last time. Their eyes locked. And for a moment, everything went still. The herd, the wind, even the helicopters felt distant. Then the stallion stepped forward. Not toward the herd. Not toward safety. But toward Lucas. He stopped right in front of him. And lowered his head. Slowly. Deliberately. Like he was saying goodbye. Lucas shook his head. No, don't do this. Mia whispered. Lucas. But Lucas didn't listen. He stepped closer. You're not leaving. The stallion closed his eyes briefly. Then looked toward the herd again. And then toward the mountains beyond. Lucas suddenly understood. You're not running. The pause. You're leading them somewhere safer. The stallion blinked once. Confirmation. Lucas's voice cracked. This is why my father protected you. Mia stepped back slowly. He's not just a horse. Lucas finished the thought. He's a guardian. The stallion turned away, walking back toward the herd. But before disappearing into them, he looked back one final time. At Lucas. A final acknowledgement. Not goodbye, but trust. Then he disappeared into the moving herd as they descended deeper into the hidden valley. Away from the helicopters. Away from the threat. Into something unseen. Lucas stood in silence. The helicopters continued circling above, but they were too late. The valley was already emptying itself of what they came to find. Mia whispered, What do we do now? Lucas looked at the stone marker again. Then at the hidden valley. Then at the path the herd had taken. His voice was steady now. We finish what my father started. And as the helicopters slowly faded into the distance, Lucas realized something that changed everything again. His father hadn't just discovered this place. He had chosen to protect it. With the help of a horse the world was never meant to control. And somewhere beyond the mountains, that horse was still leading them. The helicopters eventually faded into the distance, swallowed by the mountains like they had never been there at all. But the silence they left behind felt heavier than the noise. Lucas stood at the edge of the hidden valley, his chest rising and falling slowly, as if his body was still trying to understand what his mind already knew. Mia stepped closer, lowering her voice. They'll come back. Lucas nodded once. I know. The pause. But this time, we won't be the only ones protecting it. Far below, the herd was moving again. Not scattered, not afraid. Organized into a flowing formation guided by instinct, and by something more. The black stallion stood at the front again. Always at the front. Always watching the horizon before anyone else dared to. Lucas watched him carefully. He's done this before. Mia frowned. Protected them from helicopters? Lucas shook his head. Protected them from people like us. He turned back toward the old structure his father had built. The photographs. The maps. The hidden journal entries. Everything suddenly made sense in a way that hurt. His father hadn't been hiding a secret horse. He had been protecting an entire world. Lucas walked back inside the wooden outpost. The wind creaked through broken beams. He picked up the faded photograph again, his father standing beside the stallion in this very valley. This time, Lucas noticed something he had missed before. His father wasn't smiling at the horse. He was thanking it. Mia stepped inside behind him. What are you thinking? Lucas exhaled slowly. That my father didn't just find this place. The pause. He was chosen to protect it. Outside, the black stallion suddenly let out a long, deep call. The sound echoed through the valley like a command carried by the wind. The herd responded immediately. They began moving again, deeper into the mountains, disappearing between cliffs and forests as if the land itself was swallowing them for safety. Lucas rushed outside. No, wait. But the stallion didn't stop. Instead, it slowed just long enough for Lucas to reach him. Lucas stepped right in front of him. You're leaving again? The stallion stood still. Unshaken. But not distant. Present. Always present. Lucas swallowed hard. My father trusted you, but I don't even know your name. The pause. Then quietly, almost painfully, I don't know what you are. The stallion lowered his head slightly. And for the first time, he didn't move forward. He didn't move away. He simply stayed. Mia whispered from behind, Lucas. But Lucas couldn't look away. Because something inside him was finally breaking open. Not fear. Not confusion. Understanding. He slowly reached into his jacket pocket. The silver pendant from the box. His childhood necklace. The same one the horse had carried for years. He held it up. You kept this all this time. The stallion stepped closer. Gently. Carefully. Until the pendant hung between them again. Lucas's voice softened. You never forgot me. The stallion blinked once. So certain. Lucas smiled through tears. You were there that night, when I got lost. A memory surfaced. So cold wind. A small boy crying in the dark. And a horse lying beside him like a shield against the storm. Lucas whispered, It wasn't a dream. The stallion exhaled softly. Warm breath in cold air. Confirmation. Mia stepped forward slowly. Lucas, what does this mean? Lucas didn't look away from the horse. It means I've been wrong my entire life. The pause. My father didn't just build a ranch. He built a sanctuary. The stallion turned his head toward the mountains one last time. The herd was now barely visible, just moving shapes between cliffs and fading light. Safe again. For now. Lucas took a deep breath. What happens when they come back? The stallion looked at him. And for the first time, Lucas felt like the answer wasn't meant to be spoken. It was meant to be lived. Mia stepped closer. So what do we do? Lucas looked at the valley. At the stone marker. At the hidden world his father died protecting. And finally, at the horse. We protect it, he said simply. Not because it belongs to us. The pause. But because it never did. The stallion stepped forward one last time. Close enough that Lucas could feel the strength in his breath. Then he did something unexpected. He turned his head slightly and gently nudged Lucas's shoulder. A final gesture. Not goodbye. Not ownership. Acceptance. Lucas closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, the stallion was already walking away. Slowly. Confidently. Back toward the mountains. Back toward the herd. Back toward a world that did not need to be owned to be protected. Mia whispered, Will we ever see him again? Lucas watched the horse disappear into the distance. And for the first time, he didn't feel loss. Only respect. Yes, Lucas said softly. But not when we call him. The pause. When we're needed. The last rays of sunlight stretched across the hidden valley as the stallion disappeared into the wilderness, becoming part of the mountains once more. Not a myth. Not a legend. But a living reminder that some things are never meant to be controlled. Only understood. Back at the ranch, Lucas and Mia began the long work of protecting what remained, documenting the valley, securing legal protection, and continuing his father's unfinished mission. Not to own the land, but to keep it safe from those who never understood its value. Months later, visitors would sometimes ask about the strange stories from Reed Valley Ranch. About the wild horses seen in the distance. About the mysterious black stallion who appeared only when danger was near. Lucas would always answer the same way. I didn't discover him. The pause. He reminded me of something my father already knew. That freedom doesn't need permission to exist. And somewhere far beyond the mountains, a black stallion still ran with the herd. Watching. Guiding. Protecting. Not because he was owned, but because he chose to stay. And that was the truth Lucas would carry for the rest of his life. Some guardians are not found. They find you.